X-Pac 12360. Featuring weekly news, insider commentary, and interviews with superstars, past and present from the world of pro wrestling.
A new day is dawning for DX.
And now, your host, Sean X-Pac Waltman.
Welcome back, everyone, to X-Pac 12360. Joining us via Skype right now. Are you in Jersey? I think it's probably Jersey or New York, or I can't remember. Anyways, good friend of mine, known him for a long time. He's the host of the Jim and Sam show on Sirius. It's not XM anymore; it's just Sirius. And
What's
I think
Sirius
it's
XM?
Is it still Sirius XM?
It's Sirius XM, yeah.
I thought they got rid of the XM part. Anyways, my dear good friend Sam Roberts. Yeah.
Hey,
I was trying to give you the proper introduction and it got all jumbled up, so the hell with it.
Dude, it's been so confusing. I don't even know half the time. We're finally, we're just on one channel.
Yeah.
On Sirius XM, one channel number for the first time this year.
Right.
In like 10 years.
Yeah.
What channel is that for those that
103. Sirius XM 103. It's called Faction Talk.
Is that what the name of the channel is now?
Yeah. I don't know what it means, but yeah, it's Faction Talk.
Huh, right on. Hey, so Sam, you know, the first time that we ever met, Mike Calta, a.k.a. Cowhead, doesn't call himself Cowhead anymore, he hooked us up. I had just gotten arrested for having pot in my pocket going through the airport in Newark.
You and airports, man.
Yeah, right? And I didn't have any ID, so like I get to the Sirius building, and it's like Fort Knox trying to get into the New York Sirius building. Not so much the one here, as we found out the other week, but yeah, no, it's come a little way since then, huh, Sam? And so have you.
Well, yeah, no, I just love that we somehow that started a friendship. That
Yes.
It was me kind of borrowing a studio in the afternoon to interview you, who could barely get into the building, and it was just it just evolved, like this conversation where I was just going to ask you about wrestling just evolved into actually having a conversation about real stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like we've gotten to watch each other grow a lot. It's been really, really awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Because like at that time you were like a producer for Opie and Anthony show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And wow, man, like now you're the number one. To me, you're the number one. Obviously everyone goes, yeah, Howard, but like just take Howard out of the equation, and Jim and Sam's the number one show on Sirius.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, we hear that, and I think we feel that way. You know, I don't know who else would be besides us, but it's been...
Oh, I'm sure there's probably one or two people that might think they are, but they're not.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Not
Not going to name any names.
But no, I mean, it's just been kind of an amazing thing. It's really, and I'm sure that you can attest to this based on the journey that you've been on. Like, you have these goals when you're young, and you just kind of work, and you know, after 10, 15 years, whatever it is, you get to this place where you realize that you have achieved a lot of goals, but none of them in the ways that you thought you were going to achieve them.
Not one.
Sense?
Not
Right.
one single.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
But now, I mean, now look at Sam. You're one of the co-hosts of the kickoff shows on WWE Network for all the big pay-per-view specials.
Yeah, I mean, that's one that I can't believe. Like that, I mean, you talk about, you know, things that you want to do
Yeah.
or things that you grow up wanting to do, and just not having any idea what path that you're walking on is going to lead there. That's what this was, you know, because I had tried multiple times to do different things with WWE or to get their attention or to do all kinds of stuff from the time when I kind of was like just starting in radio,
Yeah.
you know, just trying to do stuff with them and whatever. And
Well, if
you know, a year ago or a year and change ago, they just decided to try something, and they called me up and asked me if I wanted to do it, and I was like, yeah, I want to do it.
I didn't surprise me at all, by the way, and I just remember, like in the early days of the network when it first started, and some of the shows they had you on there as like a panel, like, you know,
Yeah, that was
commenting on different like top 10 lists and things like that.
That was the first thing that I did when they did Countdown. That was one of the first shows they had on the network.
Yeah.
And I just happened to meet a guy. One of the Josh Matthews is a good friend of mine, and when he was working in WWE, we hung out a lot. Like I would go up to, he was living in Stamford, so we would hang out a lot. And Josh ended up introducing me to a few people over there who, you know, he wasn't introducing me in like a business way necessarily. It was more like, hey, this is Sam. He's a big fan. He does radio. He wants to do stuff, and you know, you end up just making friends with people. And it was through one of those meetings that they go, well, you know, it was before the network had launched, and they were like, one of the things we want to do is this talking head show.
Yeah.
So why don't you just come in and we'll tape you and we'll ask you a bunch of questions. And like I sit down just to do that, and I ended up in the chair for like, I think it was almost 5 hours. Because
yeah, I can imagine that, because they have a lot of different things they can, you know, they can use your footage for countless things.
And they figured out too that like I knew, because I've been watching like religiously for so long, and it's all been retained in my memory, that I knew about everything they were throwing at me. So they started just trying to find the obscure stuff that they wanted to cover that other people really weren't able to have any kind of expertise on. And I would just go in on it, and whatever it was, I was just able to go in on it because I love this stuff.
What was the most obscure thing they brought up that you knew about, that they were shocked that you knew about?
I don't know if it was like necessarily shocked, but when they realized that they could ask me about the entire history of Crime Time and all their vignettes and like how they debuted and everything, like I must have sat in a chair and talked for 45 minutes just about the nuances of Crime Time and how they got to WWE.
Yeah. Hey, was the back to the kickoff show stuff? What's this past WrestleMania? That was you were still new to those at that point, right?
Yeah. So my first one was last December. So I think I had only done 2 because I didn't do Royal Rumble last year. So I did one in December, and then I think I did Elimination Chamber. And so I think this past WrestleMania was only my 3rd kickoff show.
Yeah. Well, I just remembered you and I talking about that earlier on, and you were, I think it might have been after the first one you were telling me, because wasn't it out here? Anyways, no, that was, anyways.
It's Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember you saying, they just told me it's like kind of a, one-time deal, like, and we'll go from there. But I knew, Sam, that I just knew 100%. I had no doubt in my mind that wasn't going to be your only one. Like I knew they'd bring you back every single time, pretty much.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that, and you did say that to me, and I was like, I appreciated it then, and I appreciate it now. And it's really interesting, like with WrestleManias, because as a fan, like I kind of have to, not only do I have to pinch myself, but I also have to kind of level myself off, because as you know, nothing lasts forever. So you have to be able to kind of enjoy something in the moment and allow it to just be what it is.
Yeah.
But like, the past several WrestleManias, I've had these moments where I have to just tell myself to enjoy this, and it's probably not going to get better than this one. So just have fun and relax, and you'll still be able to watch WrestleMania. But me giving myself that speech kind of started at WrestleMania 30, because WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans was the one that you invited me to hang out with you with. And so, like, I got to stay in the hotel. I got to go to the Hall of Fame with you. I was hanging out in the suite with you and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just like, that was one of those experiences where I was like, all right, look, like last year you got to go as a member of the press, which you thought was the coolest thing ever. This year you're hanging out with X-Pac. Like, it's probably not, you're probably hitting your peak. So just enjoy this one.
And he gets to stay in the hotel, like with the wrestler, with the talent, and like on the floor with all, it was just, yeah, it was hard to hook that up for you, Sam. I just want you to know that.
It was so funny, and I appreciate you doing it. And I remember specifically, like, I could really tell that it was not a situation where there were any available rooms or whatever.
Right.
And because it was just so full of all the boys and everything. And like, I called my wife that night, because like you go into the hotel and you go and there's an area where the boys and then the friends and family of the boys can go and pick up their stuff. So since you had I was your guest, I went in to that room to get all my stuff. And like, I get my stuff, and then I see, Daniel Bryan's in there or Sheamus or whoever, all wrestlers are around and stuff. And this was like WrestleMania 30, so it's about 3 years ago. And I went up to my hotel room kind of immediately, and I called my wife, and she was like, "How is it?" And I was like, "Jess, it's amazing, but like I have to just stay in this room because I can't go anywhere without feeling like somebody's going to figure out that I'm here and just throw me out by my shirt collar. Like,
what are you doing here?"
But yeah, I mean, it's just been amazing. Just things have gotten progressively, stuff has just continued to happen, and I've continued to kind of bust my ass at everything, and it's been really, really, really amazing.
Yeah, man, and you do such a good job on the kickoff shows because you're not out there, like, whether you even think about this or not, like, you're just out there doing the thing. Like, you're not trying to get Sam Roberts over as a persona, and I can't say that for some of the other people I've seen be put in that same spot. Like, nothing against anybody else, but I just think that you're more what they're looking for when it comes to that, and I think it shows because they keep bringing you back to do it.
Well, thanks, man. That's pretty important to me, just because, like, I think about it as not only what would I want to watch if I were watching, but just as a fan and a guy who respects the business as much as I do. Yeah. Like, I don't think, like, I know when I do Sam Roberts show, Jim and Sam show, like, then that's my show. That's about me. But like, when I get invited by you guys, because it's your world, right? When you guys invite me into your world to come and just get to be myself and just talk about the show, like, I'm not going to sit there and be like, okay, it's time to make this the Sam show. Like, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to be me, but do whatever I can to kind of try to express to people, like, how cool this is.
Yeah, you're not just sitting there waiting to get your quote-unquote shit in.
Right. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, I mean, your shit gets in. Eventually, all your shit's going to get in. So, and people are not watching the kickoff show to see Sam Roberts shit. You know what I
mean? Were you nervous when you were doing the kickoff show? Did you have Vince in your ear?
No, Vince was not in my ear. Look, in terms of people being in my ear, like, there's always a producer who's producing the show, but he's really just there to help time the show and sometimes offer encouragement. Get in there, Sam. Like, you got this. Ask this. You know what I mean? But none of the producers are ever there telling me what to do, what to say, how to say it, what opinion to take. Like, none of that stuff. That it's all just sort of very little bits of timing and helpful things here and there. But it's very, very little producing. They really allow me to be me. And in terms of being nervous, like, I was pretty nervous. I was nervous the first time that I got there, just because I'd never done it and I didn't know what to expect. Like, I had done a little run through in Stamford, but I didn't know what to expect, and it's a live show. But I sat down, and thank God that the first kickoff show I did was with Renee and Booker T, who are like two best people you could possibly have do a show like that with, because we rehearsed a couple segments just so everybody could get comfortable with the flow of the show. And after rehearsal, it was like, oh my God, this is going to be a blast. Like, this is going to be great. I wasn't nervous anymore because, I realized what it was and who I was with, and that it was what it was. It was.
You are a professional broadcaster, Sam.
I'm the last professional broadcaster.
Exactly.
Sam, so what's the biggest surprise you've had in working with the WWE?
I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm like just blowing smoke or kissing ass, but like, there really haven't been any negative surprises at all. You always hear about how well, like, the WWE is run, and you always hear about the machine. But like, what surprised me was that those guys, the reason that the machine runs like it runs is because from top to bottom, everybody takes their job like so seriously and is so good at whatever it is that they do. Like, the producers, there's some young producers there. There are producers there, they're younger than me for sure. And it's like, they know exactly what they want, or they know exactly what they want to get, meaning they know exactly what the company or what Vince McMahon wants. Like, they know what the goal is, and they're not there to kind of question it, and they're not trying to get their shit in. We were talking, because that happens behind the scenes too.
Yeah.
You could be you're a producer who's working for somebody, but you have this idea like, no, I know better than the boss, and then that's you getting your shit in.
Yep.
Nobody there does that in my experience. It's like they go, they know what the desired result is, they know how to get it, and like there's no laziness, there's no slacking, there's no like, okay, this is good enough. Like at WrestleMania, it was like a couple of the things that I was doing in the crowd, we would pre-tape it once. The audio was not just right. No, this is WrestleMania. And that quote was said, this is WrestleMania. There's no, it's not quite right. It's perfect or it's not.
That's
there.
right.
This is, and
there's no, it's good enough. If
Never.
you were saying it's good enough, do it again.
Right. And we pre-tape it. And then it's like, if the pre-tape is not quite good enough, then they go like, fuck it, we'll do it live.
That's right.
You do it live. They go, okay, we tried to pre-tape it. We didn't quite get, for whatever reason. There's a lot of different elements. We didn't quite get what we wanted. We're going to have to do it live. And by the way, when we do it live, it has to be perfect. And it
always ends up perfect when we do it live. Because that's like all of my segments, like the last few years when I've been back there, like the one where we did where Mizdow, Damian Sandow imitated me.
Yeah.
Like all of that stuff. Like we were trying to pre-tape that, and it was just one little screw up after another, and then we go live, and everything just falls right into place.
And it's because like obviously what you're doing. Sandow knows what Sandow's doing, but also the camera guy knows what the camera guy's doing.
Yep.
The audio guy knows what the audio guy is doing. Like each person, and you, X-Pac, as a performer, are not sitting there worried, is the camera guy going to get me?
Yeah.
Is the audio guy going to get me? All you have to do is worry about your part.
Yeah. Hey,
because
so
you know that everybody else is worrying about their parts.
So Sam, you're a huge wrestling fan. You have been forever. Working for WWE now, has that changed the way you view wrestling? Can you still look at it through the lenses of a wrestling fan?
Man, it is so funny because like I won't allow myself not to. Like if I start to feel like I'm not just that fan anymore, then I would probably have to rethink what I was doing, because that's why I like doing this stuff so much. And like, for instance, I'm watching Takeover, Takeover in Brooklyn, right? And I was watching the championship match, and I was watching it on a little monitor at the makeup table, and there were a couple other people around just kind of watching, and Andrade wins. And I go, oh my God! And I start like jumping up and down like I would in my living room because I didn't see it coming. And like, a couple
That's okay, man.
Exactly. And the thing is, like, X-Pac, like everybody there, no matter how cool anybody wants to be, everybody there is a fan. And
yes.
And if you're a fan who's not like, who's respectful, who's smart but still a fan, then nobody, you're not gonna get like judged for it. You're gonna it's gonna be like, okay, cool, like he actually likes this. So
hey, Sam, I still do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I still do that. There are still moments in wrestling that do that to me, and I'm really grateful to be able to say that. After 30 years of doing this.
Yeah, and I mean, and I had those moments like, like I was watching AJ versus Brock at Survivor Series with a bunch of the guys. Like a bunch of guys came from their matches, right? And they went in, and they had just performed on the show, but now they're watching AJ versus Brock. And they're reacting the same way I'm reacting, the same way you'd be reacting, the same way I think people were reacting at home, because when you've got something that's really good, even the guys that are on the show are going to be like, this is awesome.
Yeah. So like seeing how the sausage is made hasn't really changed your opinion on anything or your outlook?
No, if anything, because I think that so much is out there anyway. Like there's not – the only secrets left – to me in WWE are that it's not nearly as sort of bad as the internet would have you believe it is. You know what I mean? There's not like this, like the internet's portrayal of what goes on behind the scenes versus what's actually going on behind the scenes. It's easier for me to be a fan being in the building than it would be if I was reading the internet like it was gospel.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that people think goes on behind the scenes, it doesn't, because people are too busy doing their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not it's not high school. It's people going to work, you know?
So what are you looking at outside of WWE now as far as like what you're into? Because I know you're still looking at other, you're a big Marty Scurll fan, huh?
Oh, you mean in the wrestling world?
Yeah.
I love. I watched Final Battle last Friday, and I really have such high hopes for Ring of Honor, and I feel like for so long they've been almost right there. And this show, the Final Battle show, I thought was really good. I loved that they put the title on Dalton Castle for a lot of reasons. I think that it makes Ring of Honor look even stronger to not only have Cody Rhodes as one of their top guys, but to have the title on a guy that they
one of their guys.
Yeah. That it's not just the Cody Rhodes show. It's Dalton Castle. He's a Ring of Honor guy, and he's our champion, and he's believable. And that people were excited when he won. I wish, and maybe this is part of the WWE rubbing off on me. It's tough for me to watch a Ring of Honor pay-per-view without being critical of the production elements of the camera work and the lighting, and there are all these little things that could make Ring of Honor appear to be so much bigger.
Yeah, the lighting and the missed shots are the things that get to me.
Yeah,
because a lot of people can't even spot that stuff, Sam.
I mean, maybe I think I think that everybody spots it. They just don't realize
it's subconsciously. Yeah.
I think that there's this feeling that's left with you that it's like, oh, that was cool, but you just don't have that feeling of I just watched this WWE level spectacle that could be there if the entrances were shot properly, or the ramp, the entrance ramp was wide enough so that you had room for a wrestler and a cameraman on it.
Yeah.
So you don't see the camera, you can. The shot is moving around the guy, and you're conscious now of the camera having to move out of a guy's way, and it takes you out of it.
And the angles too, I think that WWE just knows what angles to shoot things from to make things look grander and big. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That just give you that bigger than life look, it's coming through your TV screen. Where a lot of times there's really unflattering angles that wrestling gets shot. And and a lot of other shows.
Well, Vince McMahon standing lower than Andre the Giant and having Andre the Giant stand on a box for their first interview together to make him look so much bigger.
Sure. Or just the way, where how high your hard camera is when it's looking down on the ring. There's all kinds of things.
Yeah, it has to be just the right thing, because if it's too high, then the ring looks small, and if it's too low, then you've got a bunch of dead space above the ring.
Yeah.
That all counts. And I noticed when I was watching the Ring of Honor pay-per-view that there was dead space above the ring in a bunch of shots. But all that said, I don't want to be hypercritical of it, because I thought it was a good show, and I like so many guys there. I'm a huge Dalton Castle fan. Like you just said, I'm a big Marty Scurll fan. I think that Cody has done so much good for the wrestling business as a whole. I think Cody, now when I hear guys say there's, WWE is the only game in town, I don't think it's true. I think that's an excuse. Either if you don't like what's going on in WWE, you can make a living elsewhere. And I think Cody was the first to really sort of capitalize it and embrace it and turn it into a thing.
The first one to take that chance. To take the chance on betting on himself. I was talking about that earlier.
Yes. And I think, your buddy Austin Aries, I think, is in the same boat. That it's we live in a time where in wrestling, as in any form of entertainment, if you feel like you can get an audience and you are willing to take the risk and bet on yourself, there's a lot of success to be had outside of corporate structures. And I think that Cody is probably the biggest and best and most recent example of that in the world of wrestling. But I think it's really cool what he's doing.
Yeah, it is. And people, there was a lot of doubt when he decided to leave, and even some really, really big names doubted his decision. And they've even said, "Hey, good on him, man. It all paid off for him." How do you feel? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, who I love is who I think that people are starting to come around on really liking, but to me, Naito is.
Yeah, man.
Naito is to me the far and away. I feel the way about Naito now, and for the last probably year and a half,
Mm-hmm.
I feel the same way I did about Nakamura like 3
Yeah.
years ago when I would watch him on the New Japan shows. That's how I feel about Naito today.
So, like, to me, I get my feeling on him, and he's like, I think he's probably my favorite guy there because, like, he's the guy that's like, they're giving the main spot to Okada, and like, even I don't know what's going on with Tanahashi these days, but it seems like Naito is always just getting slighted a little bit, like,
Yeah.
and you know, he's lost out on main events in the past, and like, I like the fact that he's speaking up, and you can do this in Japanese wrestling, you know, because of the way the media is over there, and you shoot your own angles and say what you want, and it gets printed. You know, he's like, hey, screw this double main event stuff. Like Omega and Jericho, we're the main event.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I like that mentality, man, and it's good and it's healthy. It's healthy for like the competition on the, and,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and then you go out there and you work a match that proves why you should be there.
Yeah.
And like really, like when you look at New Japan, if you're a guy who can make yourself seem like badass and cool
Yeah.
to an international audience and not be associated with the Bullet Club, like that's a pretty tall task. The fact that he's able to have Los Ingobernables be like a legitimate thing where you can buy their T-shirt in Hot Topic
Yeah.
and it's a cool faction. It's a really difficult thing to do. I mean, imagine like, you know, somebody coming in and trying to be like the cool, young, hip, relevant faction when DX was in WWE. Like it wouldn't have flown because
Yeah.
DX was way too popular.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
no,
know?
it's pretty incredible, and you know, it's talking about this with JR. I did JR's show. We taped something with JR on Monday, and we were talking about that, and I just had a huge brain fart. I just had the biggest brain fart ever. Go ahead.
Well, the thing
Step
with
in.
Naito is that not only is he, you know, charismatic outside the ring where he can pull all that stuff up that you just mentioned, Sam, but not only that, inside the ring, he's so fast, he's so swift, and everything that he does, you're like, how does he get all of this on point while maintaining the speed? And I think that's one of the things that he's just one of those guys that has, like, the whole package, you know?
Well, not only does he do what's so great, I think, is not only does he have that speed, but then he doesn't use it, right? Like he'll show it and he'll start and then he'll do the tranquilo thing.
Yeah.
And it's like stop and like just lay down in the ring and like it's almost like he gives everybody the impression. So all the audience knows that he can do this. And then when he doesn't do it, it's like an even bigger deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah.
just think it's really cool.
It's because he's taking a spot that like is like a, you know, it's like it was such an overdone spot that guys would do like just okay because this is like a routine like where you go to lock up and you sidestep the guy. Or you just like, you know, you go to lock up and you just kind of walk off. Like that used to be a thing that was done like just kind of a generic spot. And like he just took it, made it his own and got it over.
I mean, it's always amazing to me when people can do stuff like that. Like even in NXT, Kairi Sane,
Yeah.
the elbow drop that she does, how anybody can breathe that kind of life into a move that's as old and been done as many times as the elbow drop is incredible to me. But now we've got a performer that has the elbow drop as a finish and nobody's sitting there going like, really? That's your finish? Everybody's obsessed with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And it makes me think of Okada too, because like I was talking to Austin about this, Steve Austin, not Austin Aries. And because we were talking about that, and you know, Okada sticks to the basics. His move, he just does them so good, like his drop kick, things like that. You know, the clothesline, the ripcord clothesline, all that.
I would hope that it's like a lesson to a lot of people too, that you don't need to learn how to do 150,000 different crazy flip, insane moves that you're never going to be able to maintain. If you can just get this core package
And do it really good.
Yeah, that you're the best at.
Yeah.
It's better.
Scott Hall would say, like, this is something he would say, like, I don't do much, but I do good.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think Okada has that gift that AJ has too, where they're really good at making the other guy look even much better.
Yeah.
And that's a gift. That's a talent, man. And I feel that's why him and Kenny Omega had such a good feud because Kenny is so good at being able to mold himself into different styles, and then Okada just has that thing, so that's why they blend so well.
You know what I loved about AJ in the match because I think, like, to me, AJ Styles is the best wrestler in the world right now, and I just, the story that was told between him and Jinder at the Clash, where it was, okay, Jinder's attacking the ribs, so now AJ's got to use his arms. Okay, Jinder's attacking his arms, so now AJ's got to use his legs. And, like, they told this story of a guy named AJ Styles who over time has developed this skill set that is impenetrable, because no matter what you take away from him, he's figured out how to use his body this way. He's figured out how to use his body that way. And I just loved that, like, he's got, 2 or 3 moves that he can do with each part of his body. So there's not so that story of, like, oh my God, this guy's unstoppable.
Yeah.
It's legitimate, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, speaking of that, about AJ Styles, and we spoke about the internet community and, what they have said about WWE and what it's like working there. A lot of the things that people were saying before AJ Styles was in WWE, that, oh, he was never going to get there because he's too small and they don't want him and blah, blah, blah. And then he went and made a big name for himself. How did you feel when you finally saw AJ Styles come into the WWE and now everything that he's doing, where guys like Brock Lesnar just love working with him? What are your thoughts?
I thought it was cool when AJ first got to WWE, in the sense that he's just one of those names, like you said, that we didn't think would ever be there. So I was like, oh, it's interesting. Like, when AJ came over, I thought it was interesting. When AJ and Nakamura came in at the same time, Nakamura was obviously in NXT, but, like, I was pumped for Nakamura, and for AJ, I was like, oh, this should be interesting. I got really excited really quick once AJ was here, just because he, more so than just about anybody that I've ever seen, especially with the amount of experience he had outside of WWE, just latched on to being a WWE superstar so wholeheartedly and made it his entire focus. Like, he completely, and that's not to say he changed his wrestling style or he changed this. He became, in short order, and the credit is his credit. He's the one who did this. He became a WWE superstar, to the point where, after 6 months of him being in WWE, nobody was talking about, oh, it's AJ from TNA. Nobody was talking about, it's AJ from New Japan. After 6 months of being there, it was like AJ Styles had been in WWE all his life. And that is to me, an accomplishment that can't go understated. That is such a huge feat.
Yeah, it is.
Don't you think so, X-Pac?
Yeah, come on, man. Especially especially when they put the word out at one point that they weren't interested in any of those guys from TNA.
Right.
It was like, ugh. I'm like, I knew even when they were saying that, look, there are certain guys that there's an exception to that statement, like that they just rise above being a TNA, quote unquote TNA talent, like, and he's one of them. And I was talking to Steve Austin again about that. It was before AJ actually went there, and I was just telling Steve, like, my impression, from knowing AJ was that he was fine not going there. He had everything laid out to where, I mean, he obviously was doing fantastic in New Japan. And elsewhere in the independent scene, it was, I'm pretty sure that he was just fine if he didn't go there.
Well, yeah, and I think WWE has done this really cool. They've shifted business a little bit, and done it in a way where they're a lot more cooperative than I think they used to be, in the sense that they don't look at themselves the way other people do. I don't think WWE looks at themselves as, well, hey, we're the only game in town, and if you don't want to work with us, you're screwed. I think that they look at a guy like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode. They look at these guys who, none of those guys need to be here, right? None of those guys need to be in WWE. They could all have great careers wrestling elsewhere, and they did for a long, long time. But WWE is now looking at guys like that and saying, look, we think it could benefit you if you came over, and we think it would benefit us if you came over. Let's figure out a deal where we're all good. Where we're all satisfied. And that's why, you see these guys keeping their names, keeping their gimmicks a little bit, and And those are the guys too that they keep their names, they keep their gimmicks, but then they shift. And Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode are in the same boat as AJ Styles, where they become WWE superstars because it's what they want to do. And I think that the company is working for them as much as they're working for the company.
Well, obviously, the mentality was up until quite recently that like if it wasn't created here, then it's really like, it's not a great idea, or we're not going to really go with it that hard. But like it really, truly, I was talking to Hunter when they had Raw here at Staples Center last week, 2 weeks ago. He was talking about that, about how that was the mentality and how they tried to break away from that mentality, and it's obvious.
Did he say who changed it? Because in my mind, I feel like the first people who might have changed it were like maybe Finn Balor and Kevin Owens, because even though they changed their names, like Finn Balor and Prince Devitt are pretty much the same character, and Kevin Owens and Kevin Steen are pretty much the same character. So was it that generation of guys when they realized like
it was mainly the guys coming from NXT, and I really honestly think that's a Triple H thing. I think he's the one that was really like just trying to bring about a new way of thinking when it comes to that.
Yeah, I think it's smart too. I think, and it's very of the time. Like you see, I think wrestling should be a reflection of the wider culture, and I think you see more and more that level of cooperation and you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours stuff going on across entertainment and media.
Yeah, and if you're not trying to be friendly and that with the smaller promotions, and like where are you going to where are you going to go cherry pick your talent from, and where are you going to go harvest some of the talent that's going out there and like creating their own personas, and like that's the great thing, Sam, is like about the independent scene is all these really cool personas that are being being cultivated, because all these guys are getting a chance to grow on their own and create on their own.
Look at what happens in NXT when the guys start to move up and they need to replenish the roster. Who do they have? Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, these are guys who were establishing those personalities outside, and now they've got the Bobby Fish. They've got this package that they can bring into NXT.
That's right.
Turn the volume up a little bit so it's a little bit more WWE, but they're ready to be those characters.
And there's like guys that aren't even there now that are other places. Like they have their persona, their gimmick already like ready to go. Talking about Marty Scurll.
Yeah,
the villain. That's perfect.
Absolutely. And he's got the thing. He's got the mask. He's got the coat. He's got the hat. He's got the umbrella. Like he's ready to go today. Even the Bucks, the Young Bucks.
Yeah, come on, exactly.
Came in. I mean, they just there's no generation me. There's no reason to change anything. The Bucks are here.
Okay, hey, let's talk about the Bucks and Cody and the Daniel Cormier and the MMA guys coming. Coming at him hard on that one spot. What's your take on all that?
I think it's so stupid. Like I don't know what MMA stands to benefit by trying to discredit pro wrestling. If anything, if I were an MMA guy, I would want pro wrestling to be healthy because eventually, if I get fame in MMA and I'm tired of getting kicked in the face for real, and I can make money, like I'm going to be able to get a big payday to go and do pro wrestling, even if I'm only doing 2 matches. So I don't understand that part of it, and I think that it's silly to take this one spot out of context from this act who like the Young Bucks are doing something that the fans are in on.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like they're the spots that they do are because they've conditioned fans to like be a smarter fan. So it's almost like we're all in on this inside joke together. And I think that that's the style of the Bucks, which isn't a bad thing. It's a realistic thing in the internet age that we live in, and I think it's no different from people who like take an MMA fight and they find like one frame of the fight where it's like 2 naked oiled guys that look like they're humping each other or something, and they're like, oh, this is what you guys are watching on Saturday night, 2 guys humping each other.
Right.
And it's like we know that that's not what it is. Like we know that like when you take the Young Bucks doing drop kicks to ballet, whatever you want to call it, like that's not That's not what
Yeah.
what the show is. It's just this spot, and I think it's kind of.
I just don't think it's MMA. I don't like to say it's all of MMA or blanket statement MMA as being so opposed to wrestling, but there's definitely that element within the
and I
MMA
think
community that really resents it.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes there are MMA guys, and it's like it's not that dissimilar from there are guys in the pro wrestling world that are resentful that the Bucks are able to be so successful and make so much money and do all this stuff because hey, that's not wrestling, that's this other thing, and you're like, well, it's working obviously. So I think that there are MMA guys who, like Daniel Cormier. He's a great fighter, but he's not the most charismatic guy in the world.
Yeah.
Like you saw when he was had to match John Jones verbally. John Jones was running circles around him. Unfortunately for John Jones, he can't get into an octagon to save his life.
Right.
But he's not charismatic on the level that John Jones is, and he's not charismatic on the level that the Young Bucks are.
Yeah.
So I think that there is this resentfulness that he sees, or that type of person. I don't want to throw this all on Cormier because it was other people too.
No, it wasn't Cormier. Cormier just chimed in, and I just thought it was, like I can understand like if I was the one being criticized.
Yeah.
Like if I was the one in the spot or in the video clip being criticized, that I might have been like, hey man, it's a little harsh, but overall, man, and I've said this earlier on the show, it's nothing to get all worked up over though, either way.
No, I don't think so. It's trolling, right? It's just like they're just trolling, and I don't. If you didn't care what that person's opinion was of stuff before he was talking about wrestling, like why are you jumping on his case when he starts tweeting about wrestling? It's like that rock star, whoever it was, like I think it was a few months back where he said something about wrestling being stupid and adults shouldn't like wrestling, and the whole Twitter world.
Oh, the guy from Kings of Leon, right?
Kings of Leon.
Yeah, that's exactly who it was. And it's like the idea that people think wrestling is stupid is never going to go away.
Right.
Like there are always going to be people who think wrestling is stupid because wrestling is kind of a silly thing unless you're like us who get it. You could see, man. You have to be able to see from an outsider's perspective.
Hey, a lot of stuff a lot of things are really silly things to us because we're not into it.
Right, exactly.
Now, you were saying that Daniel Cormier, as far as charisma, he doesn't necessarily have it compared to John Jones. Now, you take on the whole Mayweather and McGregor fight that happened, it almost felt like a wrestling, like a WWE, they were cutting a lot of promos. Do you think that, like, UFC fighters who want to kind of either make the money and or boxers should take a page from, wrestling promos and kind of apply that to their character or their persona?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. It's what ends up getting media attention, and it's what Ali did years and years and years ago. So it's not even like it's just pro wrestling, but you hear when Conor McGregor does it. He's doing Vince's walk. He's doing verbatim wrestling promos. Like he's using material from wrestling, which I think is great. I don't even have. Not only do I not have a problem with it, I think it's awesome. I like it way better. My favorite thing Brock Lesnar ever did in UFC was when he cut that promo on Bud Light. Like,
yes. And he flipped the crowd off. Yes.
Yeah. And he's this heel now. And it's like, and it's so funny because I was watching that show with MMA fans, and they were like, "This is disrespectful to the sport. This is terrible. I hope somebody comes in there and kicks his ass." And I go, bingo.
I bet you'd pay to see that, wouldn't you?
There you understand. The minute you're saying, I hope somebody kicks his ass, and we are selling people getting their asses kicked, then we've done something.
And we, as the UFC, will pretend to be mad at him for going out there and saying that on live TV.
Right, exactly, because we want to paint him even more like a villain. He's against the UFC. It's like he's this person who's against our establishment. It's like he's in this new world order of people that are against everything.
So, hey, before we let you go, Sam, do you guys want to hit Sam with any last-minute stuff?
I just want to know, Sam, what is, now that you're in the WWE, what is the best advice that you've gotten in order just to, like, I guess, help you out in your career?
Specifically to WWE or just in general?
In general.
Well, I did an interview with JR on my podcast last week, and we ended up just talking about being in WWE, but I think it applies to everything. And he was just talking about, figuring out that medium, that there are some people who go out and they kind of stick to themselves. They try not to get noticed. They try to just be quiet and stand in a corner and like, I'm just going to do whatever they ask me to do, and I'm going to try to do it well, but I'm going to just be over here and not bothering anybody. And that way, nobody will get mad at me. And while nobody will get mad at you, everybody's going to forget about you. Like, that might be how a person doesn't get fired right away, but it's certainly not going to be how a person grows at all. Like, I think the best thing that anybody can do is just put your head down, do the work, and then take your head up and be cool to the people that are around you. And like, don't be shitty about it. Don't have an ego about it. Just work and work and work, and don't worry about, what the immediate result is. Well, I'm not seeing an immediate result. Just understand that it's this bigger picture that you're building. That's what I interviewed Stardust once, and he was telling me about his dad, Dusty Rhodes, who said, who was talking to him and saying that it's not about the match. It's about your body of work, baby. Your body. And it was like, it's so right. It is. It's the body of work. Just keep building this body of work and keep moving,
Okay, I got two. One, have you ever had the urge to get in the ring and been offered to train by anybody?
Yeah, Pat Buck offered to train me. He still offers to train me. And if I were gonna train, I would train with Pat Buck because he's
Creative Pro
great.
Wrestling, yeah.
Yeah, Creative Pro. And I did get in the ring for Pat Buck once. I did enter a battle royal. I choke slammed an individual and threw him over the top rope. And then a monster, Leatherface, came out and joined the battle royal. So I did the Drew Carey, and I eliminated myself and ran away.
Okay, my second question. I see all these awesome action figures you have on your desk. Have you bought the new Virgil action figure, and he thanked you for getting him this action figure?
Oh, here we go. What's this?
Not only have I bought this thing, but I interviewed Bill McKenna.
Oh yeah, from Mattel.
Is the designer at Mattel, and I asked him because this Virgil action figure comes with the convention sign.
Yes, it
right?
does. It says WWE Superstar Virgil.
Wow.
And
that's
so
a Lonely Virgil doll.
Yeah, that's basically
right.
it.
That's what it is. And so I interviewed the guy from Mattel, the designer, and I was like, "Hey, did you know that the Lonely Virgil website, like that's my website?" And he was like, "What?" And I was like, yeah, that's my website. I kind of got that whole thing like really going. And he was like, well, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, I was just wondering, did that have anything to do with you? And he was like, you're entirely responsible for this figure.
Nice.
Yes, this is
Amazing.
you 100%. And I was like, you know what? I don't know how many more goals I have to complete now.
Does the doll have a fold-up card table that comes along with it?
It should.
It doesn't, but I think I'm gonna get one so I can put him right on the top of the desk here with a little chair and a stupid card table. Yeah.
So you started radio in 2005, and they've been talking about like radio, disappearing for many years. Where do you think like radio is going to go, or do you think it's just gonna, die into something like the podcast world or stuff like that?
Well, there is a reason I'm the last professional broadcaster because I think traditional radio is not. I would not advise, like, if somebody just loves being a DJ on a radio station, then I guess go for it. But if you were like a person who wanted to kind of grow and have a lot of success and move to the next thing and everything, then I would not suggest a career in traditional radio. It's not the worst place in the world to learn how to use a microphone, I guess, but I don't think that being on the air on a traditional radio station is something that in 2017 anybody who's like a teenager should realistically want to do. I do think though that it's evolving. I think that it's like this. Like in 2005, I didn't know I would be able to build a studio with the help of Kevin Undergaro.
I was going to mention that. It's a
Yeah, of
beautiful,
course.
beautiful
Yeah.
studio you're coming from there right now.
I didn't think we'd be able to put Undergaro East in my house.
Yeah.
And we did, and I can now, not only can I Skype with you and have video cameras and microphones and everything, but I can go live on YouTube and I can record whatever I want, and I think that it's evolving that way. I think that there are just so many more places for a person's voice to be heard, whether you want to be a YouTube personality or a podcaster or a Twitch person or whatever. I mean, there are more ways now to reach an audience than ever in the history of mankind. So, I don't think people should get so caught up on trying to mimic the success of somebody who came before them by saying, okay, well, I want to be like that person I hear on the radio. I think that they should kind of look at it in a little bit more broad terms and say, well, that person is talking to an audience about this, or this is this person's audience and he's doing that. And how in this day and age do I reach an audience? What's the next way to get an audience? I think that something that you really have to do is be thinking about not like what are people doing now that are successful.
Yeah.
You have to be thinking like, what will successful people be doing later? Right? Like, what will they be doing? And that's the direction you should always be moving in. Where are things going?
I think that our industry, I think the wrestling industry has always been on the cutting edge of using technologies like that.
I do too, especially WWE.
Yeah, for sure. Well, they invented pay-per-view. Anyone that wants to know where pay-per-view came from, it's from Vince effing McMahon. He freaking invented the whole thing.
And honestly, the WWE network, in terms of streaming networks, is way far more advanced than almost anything else that's out there. But you guys even know. I mean, just being around the AfterBuzz Studios, the fact that a guy like Kevin Undergaro and Maria Menounos can sit there and like have this vision of an after show network and build a bunch of studios with their bare hands and like blast it live to the internet and create this following and then start creating amazing original content with guys like you, is like, that is not something that was possible 15 years ago. It wasn't, and it wasn't viable 10 years ago. But
do you
now
think
it's life.
Do you think that like okay, do you think there's too much on do you think that there's too much to be had out there as far as content right now?
I think I don't know. It's so like, it's tough because there's so much content. It's tough to push your way through all of it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, before you were able to create your own content, it was impossible to get on the air, right?
That's right.
So it's always been tough to get to an audience. I don't think that there's too much content because people just have a choice to not listen to it. But I do think that there's too many people that are just like, well, I'm just going to grab a mic and I'm just going to do this. And there's not enough people thinking, what makes the thing that I'm doing special? What makes the thing that I'm doing different from what this guy's doing? What makes my take worth somebody spending an hour of their life listening to? I think that's important. Like, I know on my wrestling podcast, I think I offer a unique perspective. I would never think, I do not think that I am competing with guys like you, X-Pac, because you have the perspective of a guy who has lived this life for many years, who's like traveled, who's been in WWE, who's worked every match. I mean, you were like you were the litmus test for wrestlers coming into WWE. Like, you are the guy with the perspective from that. I'm a guy who has sat there for 30 years and watched wrestling almost nonstop. And like, I think there is a place that fans sometimes like to hear from fans on what they want. Sometimes they like to hear from wrestlers on what their perspective is. Sometimes they like to hear from that. I just think it's finding your perspective is important.
Well, for sure, Sam, because that's why I have Jimbo and Denise and TK here and Bill, who's not here right now, but because I have my perspective that you just talked about, but like, these guys, and the questions that the fans want to hear the answers to more than I do.
Right, but you're the one with the answers.
That's right. So it's a wonderful thing how this all works out, isn't it?
It's really a nice collaborative medium.
Yeah, and hey, man, we had a hell of a view of Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar, didn't we?
Dude, That was so fun. We went up there.
I'm like, Sam, come here. Let me show you something.
I was like, look, at this point, I've known you long enough. I think I'm just going to follow you. But they said, which I probably wouldn't have done that first meeting, but now it's been enough time. But they, because when they did WrestleMania this year, the ramp was so long and it was incredible. And that was one of my favorite things. I got to walk up and down that ramp when I first got to the building that day, which like I just never, ever forget how cool that was. But it was up like so that, the stage, like the entranceway.
And
was
gorilla position.
Yeah, gorilla position was in like the 300 or 400s section.
Up high. Like it was up at the top level of where you could be, like in the stadium, looking down on everything.
Right. So we ended up, X-Pac and myself, walking up the stairs towards where gorilla position was, and then we jotted off to the side so that we were just to the side of where the stage was, but it allowed us to look out over the entire stadium.
It was the best view of the whole place, man.
Amazing. It was really, really, really amazing.
Yeah, and those guys killed it. They had a hell of a match. And hey, Sam, before I let you go, I just want to thank you, man, for not just coming on today, but for being a really good friend. And man, when I got arrested for being a crystal meth, trafficker out of Los Angeles International Airport, man, Sam Roberts was right there to help me tell my story and get it out there to everyone.
Well, I mean, dude, you don't have to thank me. I appreciate all the stuff you've done for me over the years, and you yourself being a good friend. And I feel like I know you, and if I felt like you were lying to me or you had been using again, or there was some truth to that story, I would not have done what I did probably. But right. I mean, I've known you long enough that, especially in the spot that you're in right now out there, like I've never seen you in a better position. So something that bothers me is when a guy like you is as forthcoming and honest about all of his past, and you do that for the sake of teaching us.
Exactly.
Also for the sake of our entertainment too. I mean, a lot of it is just like because these are fun stories, right? And you're willing to kind of tell stories that you're not proud of, knowing that we're entertained by them. And it's like when you take a guy like that and then use his past to kind of fuck him, and use his past to make it seem like, well, obviously he's just this wreck and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, come on, man. You can't sit there and enjoy, because the only way I can enjoy stories of you when you weren't doing well is because I know that you're not still there, right? If I don't like to hear a drug addict tell me stories about being a drug addict. Like I hate it. I don't even like being around addicts. I try to get away as soon as possible using addicts, right?
Sure, of course.
But when a guy who has cleaned himself up can sit there and tell me like old war stories, I think that there's nothing more entertaining. But that said, I think that it's on all of us to kind of protect those guys who have cleaned themselves up, because that's one of the most difficult things you can do.
It is. And that's why I'm very grateful, man. Hey, Sam, your Twitter is @NotSam. Is there a little gimmick in between the not and the Sam?
No, it's not Sam.
It's just not Sam.
Not Sam.
Totally across the board on everything.
How did it end up being not Sam?
So when I was in college, I wanted to start a website where I would just write little funny things, and I was starting college radio, so I was going to put clips from my college radio show up on the website and do stuff like that. And I was like, I want it to just be simple, and I want it to just be about me, because I put my name in everything.
Yeah.
And so first I was like, samroberts.com has been taken forever. So I was like, well, let's just see if sam.com is taken. And it was, obviously. And then I was like, what could I do that's not sam.com? And then I was like, wait a minute. I kind of like the sound of that. And so I just like, not sam.com. And it was open, and I just started saying not Sam a bunch of times, and I was like, that's awesome. And so I registered the website, and then every time anything's come out, I'm like, yep, I need that. And not Sam has just been, now it's the media brand now.
So Sam Roberts is your work name. What's your government name?
Sam Roberts is my working and my shoot name.
Come on.
Yes.
Get out of here. Anyways, hey, thank you so much, Sam, and I hope to see you soon. And Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, and I'm not going to say the name of your baby, but give him a big kiss for me, big hug.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate you having me on, man. This is awesome.
Thanks, man.
Sam.
Good
Really
night.
appreciate all the advice and everything.
Thanks, guys.
Is that it?
That was awesome.
Yeah. All right. Hey, we might as well get out of here. Like, what's the what do we,
The studio's closed next week, so we won't have a show. I don't think. We might post a clip show, but that's still iffy. You, on New Year's Eve, will be at a wrestling show in Providence for XWA. The official XWA.com for more information about that. You're hosting.
I'm hosting the New Year's Eve bash.
All right.
Yeah, and on the 30th, the day before, I'll be in Chicago for AAW.
Nice.
Yeah, and so hey, I just thank you guys. Thank you for and Bill, who's not here right now but was here earlier. Very grateful for all the hard work and that you put in, and I'm it's the one thing it's not the one thing, but I really look forward to coming in here every Wednesday, and it's in huge part because of you. And so thank you so much.
Sean.
Thank
This
you.
opportunity is amazing, and without you, none of us would be
Thanks.
here.
So,
Thanks for bringing this motley crew together.
oh yeah,
I love that.
TK.
Do you want to do yours?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Jimbo, did you do yours?
Follow me on
Yeah.
Twitter at Jimbo.
We're just passing it along like a hot potato. Anyways, you guys can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at _Denise Salcedo and on YouTube Denise Salcedo. I'm about to hit 4,000 subscribers. Do a big celebration because of that. So make sure you check me out on YouTube, Denise Salcedo.
Watch her no bending your arm water video.
Oh yeah, that one's like at 50,000 views. So
Cool.
yay.
You can follow us on AfterBuzz TV, also on Twitter, The Real X-Pac, IG X-Pac12360. You can go on our Facebook page, X-Pac12360 Show. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. You can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad. I'm still posting the toy drives for Christmas. I'm running the marathon, running the marathon to help build water pumps in Africa. So you can go in my bio right up there to donate if you would like at TK Trinidad.
Actually, do that. Go and donate to. If you want to do something for me, go donate to TK's stuff, because I was just bullshitting when I said that she's taking those toys and giving them to her nephews and nieces.
Except for that rock one.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
this one's all mine. Thanks, Jimbo.
Well, hey, I just want to thank everyone else that listens and tunes in every week to this, and we will see you again in the new year, and it's going to be a great new year. The show's going to be even better. All right, bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, Sean Waltman, producers Jimbo Frank and TK Trinidad, managing producer of AfterBuzz TV Wrestling Mark Donica, and the entire X-Pac12360 staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in. Like us on Facebook, rate and comment on iTunes and YouTube. Follow X-Pac on Twitter at TheRealXpac, and email us at xpac12360show@gmail.com. This has been a presentation of the AfterBuzz TV Network. Buzz you later!